I was born on a Wednesday, though no one ever told me that. I read it on a form once, thick paper. The kind that folds like it holds secrets. Maybe that's all I ever had, papers and silence. My birth certificate had a name, a place, a time. But the warmth, the skin to skin, the songs they say mothers sing, I never knew those. I entered this world as quietly as I would move through it. No photographs, no balloons, no first blanket, just a crib that creaked and corners that didn't. Remember my name. People talk about childhood like it's a garden, something to be tended and bloomed. Mine was more like a hallway, dim, unfinished. Doors always slightly open, but never mine to walk through. There were homes, sure, dozens. Some smelled like burnt toast and old couches, others like bleach and secrets. I learned quickly how to memorize new kitchens, how to gauge a stranger's kindness by the way they place your plate on the table. They call it the system, like it's a machine, something with logic and timing. But to a child, it's a patchwork of unfamiliar voices, telling you to unpack, then repack again and again. I stopped crying the fourth time they moved me. Not because I didn't feel, but because I realized no one would come. Crying didn't summon anyone. Not a mother, not a father, not even the ghost of one. Just silence, always silence. I raised myself with the scraps I was given. I learned to read emotions before I could read books. I knew when to disappear, when to smile, when to say thank you for dinners I didn't ask for, and for rules I never understood. I watched other kids with their mothers in supermarkets, their small fingers reaching for candy, knowing someone would say yes. I never reached. I never asked. Wanting was dangerous. Attachment was expensive. The truth is, I don't remember a time I didn't feel like a burden. That word followed me unspoken, but always present. Burden. The way people sighed when I entered a room. The way adults discussed me in front of me like I was furniture with a stain they couldn't scrub out. I started to think of myself as temporary, as someone just passing through. School wasn't safe, but it was predictable. I could disappear in the back rows, bury myself in notebooks. I made up stories, not out loud, just in my head. Alternate versions of myself, ones with moms who kissed foreheads and dads who showed up on time. Stories where dinner was warm and love was a given. These stories weren't lies. They were survival. They were the places I went when the real world hurt too much. People say children are resilient, but I don't think that's fair. I think children adapt because they have no choice. I didn't choose to be strong. I just chose not to fall apart. Strength wasn't a badge of honor. It was armor. It was learning how to stay quiet when I was scared. How to make my own sandwiches when no one remembered dinner. How to wash my clothes with dish soap in a sink because I didn't want to ask again. I didn't learn love from people, I learned it from the quiet things. From books that didn't leave. From music that wrapped around me like arms never did. From a sunrise that came every morning. Whether I was wanted or not, I found pieces of family and teachers who stayed 5 minutes longer. In social workers who called when they didn't have to. In friends who saw me when I didn't want to be seen. But I also found darkness. I won't lie and pretend the journey was only made of lessons. There were nights I didn't want to wake up. Times when the ache was so deep, I couldn't breathe through it. I hated birthdays. I hated holidays. I hated anything that reminded me of the emptiness that sat at the center of everything. I wondered often if the world would notice if I disappeared. I didn't want to die, but I didn't know how to live without roots. And yet, somehow, I kept moving. I think part of me believed that if I just kept walking, maybe someday I'd arrive somewhere. Somewhere I could finally exhale. I didn't need much, just someone to remember my name. Someone to keep my photo on a fridge, a chair. That was always mine. There's something strange about raising yourself. You become your own parent, your own protector, your own therapist. You split into pieces, child and adult, wounded and wise. You comfort yourself through tears you didn't cause. You cheer yourself on when no one claps. You learn how to cook pain into purpose, how to braid grief into grace. I became someone, slowly, quietly, not because the world handed me chances, but because I carved them out with blistered hands. I found work. I paid rent. I smiled at strangers, even when my heart was bruised. I started writing letters I'd never send to the mother I never knew, to the father who never stayed. I forgave them, not because they asked, but because I needed to stop bleeding. Healing didn't come all at once. It came in pieces, in laughter that surprised me, in friends who offered soft places to land, in moments where I said, I deserve more and actually meant it. I started collecting little joys, a warm meal, a soft blanket, the sound of rain. I became the adult I once begged for. I learned how to hold myself when the world didn't. I no longer see myself as broken, I see myself as a mosaic shattered, yes, but carefully reassembled. Every crack a story, every scar a reminder. I carry my past not as a curse, but as a map. A road map for others like me who think they're alone. You're not. I promise, you're not. If you're watching this and you feel the hollowness of being unmothered, unfathered, know this: you are not invisible. Your story matters, even if no one ever asked to hear it. Especially because no one asked. You exist. You survived. And survival in a world that forgot to love you is its own kind of miracle. I don't know where I'll end up. I'm still figuring it out. But I've made peace with my beginning. I've accepted that I may never understand why I wasn't wanted, but I do know that I am needed. In small ways, in quiet rooms, in the hearts of others who need a voice to echo theirs. I raised myself, and in doing so, I became someone I can finally believe in.